Welcome back to the channel. Today on Tech Driven, we are doing a build. Now, let me quickly address this here. I had to stop using my external lavalier mic as it was picking up our nearby radio station and turning itself into an antenna. So I need to figure out a way to better isolate it so it doesn't do that. I also have the same issue on my computer speakers. So for now, I have my Zoom on a tripod and near me, and hopefully this sounds better. Not better, but it sounds okay. But anyways, today on the Tech Driven, we are doing a build on the channel. So I have this Bitphoenix Prodigy, which is my sister's PC, and I'll throw some B-roll over in a minute, but it's very dusty and dirty, and it's in dire need of an upgrade. So today we're going to be upgrading her PC. So before we upgrade the system, and as the title states, we are moving to Ryzen 5000. So this is Ryzen 5600X. It was really awesome. She ordered it on a Tuesday and then got a notice from the store on Wednesday. It was arrived. The store got like 10 of them in stock. We were super excited, so we ran to the store, picked up the CPU, picked up a power supply, because the current one you'll see in a minute, it would work wattage-wise, but it's not the prettiest, and it's fairly old, so it's a good time to upgrade, and we're replacing 99% of the components already. So we're super excited about Ryzen 5600X in her new build, and we're not sticking with this case. Originally, we were going to do a 3600X, which going from a Sandy Bridge system to Ryzen, or anything new, even if we were going to current Intel 10th Gen or Intel 9th Gen, it would be a massive performance jump. But 5600X being kind of the best all-around CPU in general for productivity and gaming, and it really kicks ass in gaming. But I'm going to move on from that and calm down a little bit. But let's talk about the current build. Now, the current build, I've got the side panels off. This side panel will be perforated, and I'll talk about the other one in a minute. So this is the Bitphoenix Prodigy. We reviewed this on the channel. We were super excited when it came out. We really liked the case. I love the unique styling and the fact that it came in several colors. Ours is in white, and there was a lot of different versions, a lot of case mods. It was a very modular case. There was also an MATX version where they totally re-engineered the inside, but it was a fairly cool case for its day. Nowadays, I'd say it's still a decent case. Biggest downfall is I would mod the front panel to allow more air in. Maybe making a mesh front here. You don't really need a DVD drive bay anymore, as that's not really needed. But overall, super cool case. So let's get into the specs of the build. First thing you see is the graphics card mounted vertically as the motherboard's laid flat. This is a Radeon RX 580. Now, this is an MSI version. It's got the cool red and black accents, which will look really nice in the new build. As you can see, the power supply cables are non-sleeved and just kind of hanging out. So not really much you could do with that with this case for cable management. It has a 600 watt Thermaltake TR2 power supply. It's a good unit, still holding up totally strong today, but non-modular, non-sleeve cables. I don't even think it's 80 plus. It might be, but there's a really old 80 plus certification. So it's best to just get it out of here and relish it to the closet of spare power supplies. Storage, we got a 1 terabyte WD Black as our game drive, and that's a 7200 RPM hard drive. We have a 240 gig SSD, and this is a ADATA unit. Fairly good setup, nice and basic. It was very cost effective for when the system was built. SSDs now are very cheap and inexpensive, so these will be upgraded along with the power supply. Graphics card will stay. So now that I've flipped over the case, you can see the CPU cooler, the motherboard, the RAM. I pulled one out because they're a bit hard to pull out, and I just wanted to show you it. As well as there's the CPU in there, which you can't see. So let's start with the CPU. The CPU is an i7. This has been upgraded from an i3, and the i3 was some Sandy Bridge i3, a 3rd gen Sandy Bridge. But I upgraded it later on to a used i7 3770 non-K, as this motherboard is an H61 chipset from the Sandy Bridge era and does not support overclocking. You could overclock this non-K actually up to 4.2 gigahertz, no problem, when I've done it on my Z77 motherboard. I could probably push it further, but the multiplier is locked to a certain point. and I think 4.2 was where it locks. But original NZXT Kraken, fantastic cooler still to this day, and the Kraken series for NZXT has done very well, and they are really good coolers. The original fans did die, but the pump and everything else still works totally fine. Replaced them with some Noctua fans because they're quiet and they're pretty efficient. Now, these aren't the best for rads as they have circle frames instead of square frames, so I did a push-pull just to brute force my way through. Moving on to the RAM, we have some G.Skill Ripjaw X DDR3. Yeah. 1600 megahertz, CL9 timings. Now, it's an 8 gig kit, so two 4 gig sticks. It's really starting to show its age, and this will be upgraded as well. There's really nothing else. It says Intel XMP ready on it. Nice. And that's kind of the current build in a nutshell. Now let's move on to the new parts. So now that I've shown you the current system, let's show you what we're upgrading to. Now, as I said, we're upgrading to the 5600X. Fantastic CPU. It's pretty well priced. Here in Canada, it's $420. And, I would say for the level of performance you get, that's a fantastic price. Like, Intel cannot touch that. They just can't yet. But we'll see what happens when the 11th gen comes out. So I'm really interested in that. If there's one big thing in here that my sister does not know about with her build currently at the time of filming, is I am upgrading her storage, and I have got her an AIO cooler. So she thought she was going to be running the stock cooler and her old storage. Well, come on now. Can I let her rock that? I don't think so. Gotta upgrade everything. The only thing I can't afford to give her right now is a video card. Even if I could afford to give her a video card, I couldn't even buy a video card right now because there's just nothing in stock. And that's the only component from the old build that is staying. But let's go over the core components. 5600X. I knocked over the case, or the box, but a B550F gaming motherboard from Asus. This is a fantastic motherboard. It didn't ship with the Ryzen 5000 BIOS, but thankfully it has BIOS flashback, so you just stick a USB key in the back with the BIOS you got off Asus's website, run their utility to rename it to the correct file, format your USB to FAT32, good to go. It does it in about 2 seconds, and it's not 2 seconds, but it happens in about 5 minutes, and then after that, machine booted up totally fine. But be careful, there is some beta BIOSes, and if this is your daily driver and not really a system you're playing with, I would stay away from the beta BIOSes and stick with the stable current releases. That's just my PSA. So, motherboard, really nice motherboard. Has a good amount of RGB headers and fan headers, as well as the overall VRM and everything is really, really nice. So that's kind of why we went with that. Let's move on to storage. So storage, and then this is she doesn't know that she's getting this, but I upgraded her to NVMe storage from the SATA SSD for her boot. So this is a 500 gig WD SN750. These are fairly good SSDs, very well priced, under $100 Canadian. They do have PCI Express 4.0 versions, but they are still fairly expensive. So these were on Black Friday sale, really, really well priced. Same with the Team Group SSD, the GX2. Now, this is a fairly well-priced, inexpensive SATA SSD. Now, this is 1 terabyte in size. Again, Black Friday sale, super happy with it. It doesn't break the bank, and this will be perfect for what she needs, as this will be her storage/game drive. A lot faster than that WD she had. Power supply. Power supply is very important. The 600-watt Thermaltake TR2 would work, except for it's not modular. It has spaghetti cables, so it looks like arse. And, well, I can't let her, have a PC with ugly cables. Come on, am I a monster? So, Corsair TX750M, fairly strong power supply, 80 plus gold. I was looking at a couple other Corsair units that are 650 watts. The biggest difference with them, they were fully modular, they were more expensive, and they had 2 EPS 8-pin connectors, so this only has 1. I know the B550 motherboard from Asus does require an 8-pin and has an additional 4-pin. Now, you only need to have the 8-pin plugged in. The extra 4-pin's only for if you require the extra voltage, if you're going hardcore overclocking, which with a B550 motherboard and a 5600X and an AIO, you're not really pushing it far enough to ever require that. So she's totally fine with that. It actually comes with really nice cables, 7-year warranty, 80 plus gold. So that's a big step up, and it's actually a very compact unit too. And it's semi-modular, so the 24-pin and the 8-pin are hardwired, and the rest you can add on. So really happy with it. Cooler Master ML240. Now, I've actually shot this after I built the system. I shot these videos previous to building the system, but I wasn't happy with the clips, so I reshot them. This did not show up until after I built the computer, so I'm going to tear it down and add it. So in the time lapse, you will see it not in the build. But these are fairly inexpensive. It said it wasn't going to show up till December 3rd, and it showed up today. I was like, oh, cool. I didn't even get an email it was shipped. All right. Anyways, so yeah, ML240, good cooler, has RGB fans. It's basic. It works. I have a friend that has a couple of them, and he's been running it for years, so I was like, okay, I'll go based off your recommendation. I did some reading into them. They actually perform very well compared to other AIOs. So not the best in the market, but also far from the worst. And they look neat. But let's go on to the time lapse, and I hope you enjoy. Before we do the time lapse, I forgot one other item. The RAM. I just don't have it here because it's actually already in the system. But I did Corsair Vengeance LPX 3000 megahertz CL15 timing memory. 16 gigs of it, so she's doubling her memory. Huge speed boost because it's DDR4 as well, and it's 3000 megahertz. Now, the only thing is I had it laying around, so that's the reason why we were using it. But she would see a benefit if she went with 3600 megahertz memory. So maybe later on we'll upgrade to that. And also do the video card, because that's the only thing that's staying over is the video card. And also a Corsair iQ220T is the case. And the reason why I went with that case is because it actually comes with 3 case fans, and they're RGB fans. So 3 Corsair fans, lighting node core, and a case with decent airflow. Can't really say no. We were looking at a few others, but she liked this one the best. Now, I have featured the 220T on my channel before in white. Now this one is black. So anyways, I hope you enjoy the time lapse. and I have the system together. It came out really well. It looks fantastic. I haven't set up any of the fan profiles really. I haven't set up any of the lighting, so it's in full rainbow mode. The fans that come with the Cooler Master cooler are not adjustable RGB. They just kind of go, they just cycle through colors, where the Corsair fans are adjustable RGB but controllable by IQ, where this can be controllable via the your motherboard software. So in this instance, it'll be controlled by the Asus Aurora, which I really don't like. That software is buggy as shit. But overall, though, this was a dream to build in. I would say maybe the Meshify C was a little bit better. But because I've worked with this case, I've kind of grown to know its quirks, and but again, it's still a really easy case to build in, and for the price, it's such a fantastic case. With the mesh front, and it has enough holes in the front in the front panel that you can get the LEDs to shine through. There is a solid tempered glass version of this case. Why you'd want that is beyond me. Right now, I have the side panel off. And the rear side panel is on, and it has no bulging or anything like that. There's so many cable tie downs, and if you're really smart with your cable management, you will have no issue tying everything up very neatly, and you won't have to press on the side panel to get it to close. It closes really easy. I've had some cases in the past that I've done builds on. I have to literally flip the case on its bottom, press on it, and then slide it closed because there's just no room behind the motherboard tray. But this is also going back 10 years ago. And things have really changed. Like the Leon Leo 11, it's so easy. When I originally built it, I just tossed everything in the back because I had tons of room. But then when I redid the water cooling loop that you guys will see, I completely recabled the back of it, and I'll show you that too. But in this case, you can see in the back of the case, everything came out really nice. There's tons of cable tie downs to make it super neat. The motherboard tray kind of angles forward to allow a little bit more space, which is super smart. The bottom basement where the power supply sits and your extra 2 hard drives if you want them, and it's removable. I unscrewed it, took it out, give myself the extra room in it. That was great. Overall, it's just a fantastic case to work with. My biggest complaint is I just wish they made it a little bit wider so the AIO can come forward more to give you more VRAM clearance, as you cannot run tall heat spreaders. As well as the AIO is contacting the rear I/O shroud. But again, it may not contact all I/O shrouds. The one in this motherboard is actually fairly tall. And this is just a trend I don't like with modern motherboards. Yeah, it looks cool. You can put RGB on it and they got their logo, but man, it's just unnecessary. Then you run into case clearance issues like this. And if it didn't have that, I'd have no issues. I could have pushed this back further, but I had to push it all the way forward to minimize how much it touched it, and then try to push the screws forward. So if you're looking at it like this, I have it kind of like that, barely, because the screws have a bit of play. So I pushed it forward this much, so there's less clearance here than there is here. But I tried shoving the whole unit forward, and as far forward as possible. So towards the outside of the case and towards the front of the case as much as possible. Now, you do have to keep in mind there is the front panel plugs that are all the way up here. So I tucked those up and made it all kind of work, and I got it to fit. But that is my biggest complaint about this case. Overall, it's a really nice case. The fans it comes with are pretty quiet, and you can spin them up, and they don't get crazy loud. And the fans that I did add, so the BitPhoenix fan only runs at 1,000 RPM, so at full speed it's still virtually silent. And the pump, I have it at full. It runs at full speed because it's plugged into the AIO pump header, and you don't even hear a buzzing or humming from it. So unlike my DDC, I have to run under 40%, or else I start hearing the noise of the pump. Or even the Corsair AIO that I have in the other 220T, I have the pump actually dialed back a bit because you do start hearing a little bit of noise from it. It is a little bit audible. And, if you don't care about noise, go for it. Run it at 100% because you'll get, maximum performance that way. But overall, though, this was a really nice case to build in. You do have this cable grommet hole here. So this will be good for if you're running RTX 3000 because you can run the cable up and plug it in like that. But I ran it from the bottom here just like I did in the other 220T, and I think it looks really sharp. Now in the video you did see me putting in sleeve cables, but those sleeve cable extensions were not very good. I got them to work in the build we did the review in ages ago, and I haven't used them since. And I wanted to run them like how you would do how you would do sleeve cables today, with like cable combs and having the really cool look. And I just don't think they were made for that, and they just don't have the length for it. So I just went with the original cables, and plus the original cables look to be using a thicker gauge wire, so I feel a little more comfortable using that. But overall, nice build. Now I'm going to do a follow-up video on this. It'll be a lot shorter, and it's going to be more benchmark focus of Sandy Bridge, upgrading from Sandy Bridge to Ryzen 5000. Now the biggest difference you're going to see, it's not really going to be gaming performance. Yes, it's probably going to game a bit better and get higher benchmark scores in like 3D Mark and in like GTA 5 and Borderlands. And what was the other game I benchmarked it in? There was a couple other, but 3D Mark, Borderlands, and GTA 5 are the main ones. Oh, and if I did run Counter-Strike, you will see a jump in Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike's very CPU intensive, but the biggest difference you'll see is like the Cinebench score will go up and the 3D Mark CPU score will go way up. And that's where you're going to really see the big difference. So anytime you're doing any CPU-bound task, you're going to see a huge difference. But we will replace the GPU once graphics card availability gets better, and once NVIDIA and AMD flush out their entire lineup. So overall, I hope you guys really enjoyed this build, and if you did, please consider subscribing and liking the video down below. If you had any comments or suggestions about the build, please leave it down in the comments below. I'd love to chat, and as always, we'll see you in the next video.